You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 640, where we're going to be talking Master of Evil with Adam Christopher himself. Lauren's with us here today. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to get into this one.
We've been waiting forever, it feels like, to do this interview. And of course, with us is Adam Christopher. We're returning to the show. Adam, welcome back to the show. Congratulations on the success of Master of Evil, and thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me back. It's great to be here.
Yeah. And I know you got a chance to catch our breakdown. Lauren and I did about an hour and a half talking about just Master of Evil, getting into all the weeds. I guess it was about a month ago now, a month and a half ago. And yet we found there were still weeds that needed to be turned, and we didn't get into everything, right? But, I wanted to quickly just start off by talking about the success of Master of Evil. I know a lot of our supporters and followers have really enjoyed the book. I've seen a lot of great reviews. A lot of our fellow peers have enjoyed it as well. But how's that been for you? Like, this is now your second, I guess, official novel here from Star Wars, although you did some of the short stories as well. But what's that like, having two books under your belt here?
It's kind of weird because I remember wanting to do the first, as any author, I really, really, really wanted to do a Star Wars book, like so badly. So then I got one finally. Which was a big deal, and that's amazing. I'm a Star Wars fan as well as a writer, so it was amazing. And then I did another one, and this is a kind of weird thing of time. Like I felt like I was waiting for so long, and then for my dream to come true, and then it came true, and then I did another one.
Yeah.
But my perception of time is like it's really stretched and condensed and kind of surreal to think now I've done two novels. But they're two books that I really like, and I'm quite proud of them. So yeah,
as you should be. Yeah.
Thank you.
How soon after did you get the word that you would be doing a second novel?
I think, as far as I can recall, I think I had a call with the editors like the next day after Shadow came out.
Oh, wow.
That's like 2022.
Yeah.
That was June it came out. I think, I like to say it was the next day, but it was the next week, or, it was the next, same week, whatever. It was very, very close because I knew that there had been discussions or talk about wanting to do a Darth Vader novel, especially because, 2025 was the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
And Star Wars loves anniversaries. So because Revenge of the Sith is kind of like the ultimate Darth Vader movie, it kind of would make sense to do a Darth Vader book. And especially because there hadn't been a Darth Vader book at that point for
been a while.
10 years. Yeah. I mean, he's in some of the Thrawn books. He makes appearances here and there. But hasn't been the main character or the kind of the focus.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, let's do 10 years since a Vader book and 20 years since Revenge of the Sith.
Yep.
And yeah, it was literally, it would have been the next day, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Which just shows you how long it all takes, because then of course that book came out in 2025. And as you can imagine with any Star Wars project, there's approvals and outlines and a whole process, which is understandable because it's a huge property, and whatever you do in it, there are so many eyes looking at what you're doing and making sure that it fits with the kind of grand plan of everything.
Yeah.
Which was the same for Shadow of the Sith.
Right.
But yeah, that's just part of it. It's a long process, and hopefully you get a good result.
Yeah, and we hear a lot of that, when it comes to, of course, television series and movies and trying to stay canonically with, in frame of everything. Do you feel like it's the same level of scrutiny? Do you have any kind of additional liberties, or are they not as over your shoulder as much because it's a novel versus book, or do they kind of keep those with the same respect?
It is the same level of respect and scrutiny.
Okay.
Because, and so I think Star Wars may be unique because everything in Star Wars is canon. So like everything from comics, kids books, adult
Sure.
books,
Yeah.
TV, animated films, computer games, the most obscure kind of kids picture book pop-up thing will be canon in some way, which I think other properties, I mean, there's not many properties as big as Star Wars in the first place, but others are maybe a little bit looser. But the point, I think, of this kind of tie-in, and it sort of applies to things like I've done like Stranger Things and some Doctor Who stuff as well. It's got the same level of scrutiny and importance, but at the same time, people are busy doing other things. Actually, yeah, my first experience of tie-ins, I'm kind of just looking at my shelf just to remind myself, were 2 novels for the Elementary TV series, which was that Johnny Lee Miller, Lucy Liu, modern day Sherlock Holmes set in New York City. And when I did both of those novels, the TV show was in production. So like it was a current thing. And the last thing the producer needed was some author in England wasting his time, needing to be supervised and looked after and hold his hand, because he's busy making a TV show.
Yeah.
And Stranger Things, people are busy doing Star Wars things. So with any high profile property, IP, it's really important how they choose the authors that kind of can contribute to it, because they need to be able to do the job and not require that level of supervision.
Exactly.
So you've earned their trust then.
Well, yeah. And the thing is, this applies to all kind of tie-in, but like I got the invite to do Star Wars because at that point I had 10 plus years of my own traditionally published novels.
Right. Yeah.
Now, not bestsellers, I'm not saying I'm a household name or anything, but all it showed was I could finish a book on time to the required standard that fulfilled some kind of brief that people were satisfied with, and that I didn't need supervision, because that is the super important thing. It's actually quite hard to write a book, and it's probably even harder to write a Star Wars book.
Yeah.
So like, to answer your question, it's like, yes, I think there is that level of care and I don't know what you call it. It's like, it's not supervision. It's not even scrutiny. It's all on. Yeah. So Star Wars is kind of on a level. A comic is as important as a novel, as important as a middle grade novel.
Right.
So yeah, like for me, that's a really good experience, because I actually quite like working like that. A lot of authors don't do tie-ins or licensed work because it's not the kind of style of thing they do. I find it uses a kind of different part of my writer brain to doing my own original stuff, where I'm on my own mostly.
And I think as us as readers, not to toot your horn here, and I said this during our breakdown, like, you do a really good job of staying honest and true to the characters. Like, there are writers out there, and not just Star Wars, other IPs as well, that I'll read books from, and some of the stuff they do and say feels within character, but then sometimes it doesn't feel within character. And I think you do a really good job of staying in character in the moments, and the outcomes are what I would expect from those characters. That says a lot about what you know about the characters, and I think when you go back to talking about the trust that these publishers have, that to me is another important integral part of it, right? If you have a writer that comes in and they just kind of take a character in a totally different direction, or it feels out of character, that's not going to translate into good book sales. So I think there is a trust that you can come in on budget and on time or whatever. At the same time, I think that they do trust you to write good characters and keep those characters in character and true to the characters that we know and love. And so I think you've done that. I'm a fan of the Stranger Things novel as well. Hopper's like, in fact, I'm wearing Hopper's hat right now. He's like one of my favorite characters of all time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I felt the same way reading that one. So
Well, this is the thing. Like, you just like if Hopper's one of your favorite characters of all time, there are a lot of people that think that. So therefore, I'm doing a Hopper novel. My job, number one, is to get the character right, because
Right.
people who love Hopper or love Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker or whoever, if it's not right, they'll know straight away.
Oh yeah.
And then it's like, well, what am I actually doing this for if I'm not being true to the original property? I can tell my own story.
Sure.
And for both Shadow and Master of Evil, there was no guidance really. Again, because they trust me to be able to tell a story that's kind of book length, which is quite difficult. Can be quite difficult to do. For example, I did 3 novels for a video game series called Dishonored, which I had played and I loved it, and I was like, yes, I'd love to do that. The choice I was given, which I haven't told anyone before, but I could either do some novels for Dishonored or novels for Mass Effect.
Oh.
Now, I know Mass Effect is hugely popular,
Yeah.
and it's got great storytelling in itself. I'd never played it. I knew exactly what it was, but I didn't play it.
Rabid fan base too. From
Yeah,
BioWare.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But like Dishonored, I was a fan of, and I played it, and I played it through. So I went for Dishonored because I knew that I wouldn't be able to do a good job on Mass Effect, and that not only would it take so much work to try and educate myself on a
Get caught up,
whole world.
Yeah.
I also knew that fans of Mass Effect, of which there are many, would immediately know that something was not right about the books. And to me, when you're writing IP, you do it because you love it. I don't think you have to be I wasn't a super fan of Dishonored, like compared to Star Wars or something, but like I was enough of a fan that I could do a good job. So you don't need to be the kind of super Star Wars geek like we are about things like that. But to me, that's important, I think.
Do you have a preference when it comes to writing an established character that everybody knows, or writing someone like Colonel Goth, where you really have to kind of, I guess, go off script with how you build him?
It's a difficult one because, Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker is the other one from Shadow. It's like these are characters that people have known for so long and have such a presence in people's lives. But in any Star Wars book, you've got to create your own characters to go with your own story. And then somehow these brand new characters that have come out of nowhere have got to be in the same scenes as someone like Darth Vader, who people have watched for 50 years.
Yeah, and stand up to them almost figuratively and literally as Goth did.
It's quite funny. There was a review of Master of Evil that was complaining about the original characters I'd created. It's like, there's this guy called Goth, and it's like, well, who's this person? He's never appeared in Star Wars before. I was just like, well, yeah. I mean, I'm assuming at this point you have read a book at some point.
Technically, he has appeared in Star Wars before. If you're paying attention to Revenge of the Sith.
He's been in Star Wars for 20 years. Excuse me. But yeah, so like it's difficult, and when I'm actually writing in the process of writing, I don't think about that, because otherwise you'd freeze up. I think, I've got a scene with Luke Skywalker and this other person, the Comat, who was just my creation, and somehow has to be as real. And especially with things like, any IP where there's a very strong visual element. Star Wars to me is very visual. I mean, Darth Vader is a classic example. Like even his silhouette is instantly recognizable, and it's recognizable to people that don't know Star Wars or like Star Wars. Everybody knows who Darth Vader is, and the breathing and things. These are kind of become cultural mythology, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, if I thought about that and then a character like Goth, like they're in the same scene, you'd get so tangled in it, I think. So when I'm writing, it's like it's all kind of a clean slate, which it is, because like it's a new story,
right?
Yeah.
So on that.
Speaking of,
go ahead. No, take it.
I think we were both about to ask.
We were about
question,
to jump into the same thing. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you. So, I mean, speaking of Goth, what is it that prompted you to actually tell the story through his eyes specifically? Then.
So I knew that um, to tell a Darth Vader story, to have a whole novel about Darth Vader, like you can't have it from his point of view, because the closer you get to the mystery of Darth Vader, the more the mystery disappears. And the point of Darth Vader, especially at that kind of point of the timeline, is that nobody knows who he is, and he's very scary. And in fact, I think we forget that Darth Vader is scary. If you can imagine 1977 when he first walks onto the ship, he looks like nothing else we've ever seen.
Yeah.
We forget that his mask is a skull. Like it's a skull. It's meant to scare people.
Yeah.
But because he's become so ingrained and because there's so much Vader material, we've kind of forgotten that sometimes. So to tell a story where Vader is a mystery because he's new and he's just kind of appeared, we know who he is.
Sure.
And we've watched the prequel trilogy. Goth hasn't watched the prequel trilogy. So he doesn't know any of this stuff. So none of the characters know any of this stuff. So Vader had to be kind of one step removed to tell an effective story. If you told it from his point of view, and I know people have like, oh, it's not his point of view, or it almost feels like sometimes people wanted a whole novel, which was the corridor scene from the end of Rogue One.
Yeah. Or Lords of the Sith Part 2. I've seen people,
right.
Yeah.
And the thing about the corridor scene in Rogue One, like it's so effective and so brilliant because it's 30 seconds after 2 hours of Rogue One. Like that is the impact of that scene. It's seeded earlier because we do meet Vader in the middle of the movie, and then that's the impact of it. So you can't do that. A 2-hour movie of a corridor scene would be really boring. And a novel like that would be really boring. And like we've got, and as other people have also said, there's plenty of Vader material. There's comics, especially comics. And in the comics, there's all kinds of stuff. There's like pure action stuff. There's really just Vader going at it with a lightsaber in the Force. So if that's the stuff you want, it's available. For a novel, you can't do that because a novel's quite long and far more in depth and detailed than a comic book. So then Goth comes along because I needed a character who, Vader, we see his point of view a couple of times, but like if he's the main character of the book, we need someone very close to him who can tell the story, and we can see how the galaxy sees Vader through the eyes of someone else. Going to the whole point of the fact that Vader is a mystery and he's very scary and we don't know anything about him. So a royal guard came to mind immediately. But with a kind of like a deeper connection because Goth is sick and he's looking for an answer. Like everybody in the book is kind of looking for an answer. So he's looking for an answer to something. Vader's looking for an answer to something. And I think actually for both those characters, they find an answer, but it's different to what they were kind of they were looking for. But again, this is almost some of that stuff is not stuff that you consciously think about as you're in the process of doing it. But I had that kind of baseline of Vader and another character, and Goth is sick, and he's a royal guard, so he's very close to Vader. And you can kind of build out from there. But Goth, I think, appeared, when I came up with the idea, pretty much straight away. And also then with Goth, like you can't just have one guy watching Vader. He needs people to talk to and people to interact with. So TC-99 arrived. And then when I realized that Goth was sick and dying, but he's also kind of got this authority to hide that because he's a dedicated soldier.
Company man.
So he could use some of that authority to, use TC-99 to kind of help hide that from everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, and none of that was lost on us. Like I understand some of the feedback and the criticism there, but when you really pull back the layers of this novel, there's some really deep connections. And again, I know you said some of this kind of happened organically, some of this might have been intentionally, but we do. I mean, Laura and I during our breakdown, we kind of talked about some of the parallels that exist between Vader and Goth, and being sick, and fighting for the Empire or being loyal to the Empire in their own certain ways, and then kind of diverging by the very end.
It was funny.
Because it was
So I watched your long breakdown, and I was like, halfway through, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Like, oh, of course, yeah, because there's that connection, this kind of theme, which is really good. Because again, sometimes the stuff is organic, and you don't know until you've done it.
Yeah, and I've heard that from other authors. I think Claudia Gray, as we've interviewed her, she said the same thing. I mean, it just kind of happens, right? And so those are just just really nice connections that we get to kind of see and feel for. I think for Goth too, I guess maybe a question that I have is just, writing a new character comes with its challenges, but I mean, I guess what were some of the things that were challenging and some of the advantages that you have in bringing a new character like Goth to the novel?
Well, I think because he was very defined, and by that I mean his ignore him as a kind of character traits or personality, but his role was very defined. So a royal guard, close to Vader, he's sick. He was involved with the previous, the old Republic, and then he's got this kind of ideological background where he thinks it's good that what's happened and it's going to find peace and prosperity, and he's proud of what he does. But then he's got this kind of thing because he's sick. All these things help build out a character and make him, give him definition. Yeah. And then organically from there, you kind of get personality and stuff. I mean, knowing that he had to carry the story mostly means that he had to be very kind of real, so I do cast like fantasy cast characters when I write them.
Oh, so who was Goth?
Sorry?
Who was Goth then?
So I had him as, there's an actor called Paul McGann. Now, Paul McGann played the 8th Doctor in Doctor Who, and we've done a lot of Doctor Who stuff actually. He was in a film.
I had to look him up. I'm not a big Doctor Who fan, but I recognize his face now. Yep.
I'm looking him up too.
Yeah, well, he's in a film called With Nail and I, which is from 1987, which was Richard E. Grant's first movie, and Richard E. Grant, of course, played Enric Pride, and so that movie is one of my favorite movies, which is why a lot of my kind of Pride stuff is basically With Nail in space. That's basically his entire character is With Nail.
Right, yeah.
Which I could kind of sneak in because it turns out it's like that film didn't do much in America, so like it doesn't in the UK here. There's got a huge kind of cultural resonance with Nail and I, but in the States no one really knows it. So I kind of put all this stuff in, thinking they were going to make me take it out, and they didn't. So great.
Nice.
But from that point, so Paul McGann, even before I knew him in Doctor Who, I liked him from With Nail and I. And he did like a stage production of some classic theatre where it was all kind of done set during World War II. So there's a lot of photos of him in a very kind of old imperial uniform, sort of.
Yeah.
But like, for me, not saying that he's Paul McGann in the book, but it's like that is kind of what I do. It just kind of helps sometimes, especially if I'm like a main character like that, because then I can use real life quirks and personality and bits and pieces.
Yep.
And I've met Paul McGann a few times. So maybe next time I should tell him that he's in a Star Wars book.
Yeah, I think it blows mine, honestly. But
so we need a film adaptation with him.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Oh, and he needs to come across. Well, you can't do it because the time doesn't work. But like Paul McGann and Richard E. Grant.
Yeah, get Pride and him somehow together. Yeah, it wouldn't line up. Maybe it's his dad or something. Yeah. What about so I know, Lauren, this is the question that you had. So I want to turn it over to you, but we were kind of debating back and forth even as part of the discussion that we had and then afterwards, and I think we were still talking about even as recently as last week, but whether or not Goth would have, had he lived, what would have been his fate? Would he have stayed, had he gone joined the rebellion? Would he just kind of left the galaxy altogether and said, or been left the conflict altogether and said, I don't want any part of this anymore? But it felt like he was kind of leaning towards being done with all this had he survived and had he lived. Can you definitively say that, or do you intentionally leave that kind of open for us to kind of discuss?
It's funny. That's a really good question, because again, it's another character journey that he goes on, almost in parallel to his illness, and because his illness is what kind of draws him to Vader and that side. But then there's the other side of, because he's close to Vader and sees what Vader does, and then kind of learns what the Emperor's, or how the Emperor behaves.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's sickness aside, he's already drifting off into, this is actually not how we should do things. I think he'd be the kind of, he'd still think that things had to change, because he's clearly, he doesn't like the Jedi,
right,
for a variety of reasons, which you can kind of see parts of that, so he wanted change, and thought this was it, but actually maybe it isn't. I don't think he would go kind of join the rebellion kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's like that, but I could see him drifting off, like just saying, I'm out, like, this is I'm not, this is not how things have to change, but this is not how we do things.
Right.
And kind of one of those characters we see in Star Wars that kind of is just like finds a planet, does whatever, comes up with whatever business plan they want to survive, and occasionally their life will intersect with what's going on in the galaxy.
Sure.
In the larger galaxy. But yeah, so I think he's definitely, because he's not a bad person.
Yeah.
He believes the wrong things.
Sure.
But he's not a bad person, and he's also smart enough to know when he's wrong and when something's not right. Even though he's Imperial and he's very close to that kind of inner circle, he knows right from wrong. And I don't know if he realizes how, like, he's not brainwashed by the Empire, but he's
buying what they're selling.
Yeah, but he's kind of buying that superficial level of, peace and prosperity, and the galaxy's gonna be a safe place because we've got a firm control, and this is great, which is that kind of top level propaganda of, it's fine, that's great,
Mm-hmm.
and then you continue with your life. But he's not
it's
the kind of
like
person.
Cyril Karn, and sorry, I don't mean to bring in Andor, but Cyril Karn was kind of in that same headset, right? Where he was like, "Hey, we're trying to do the right thing. We're trying to uphold law, peace, and prosperity." And when things really weren't going the way he thought it was, he felt betrayed. And I think there was a lot of bit of betrayal that came from that came into Goth after he learned what was going on with Vader and Palpatine and what they were doing.
Yeah, and that's a very good comparison, because the thing with him and Andor is, like, he's just trying to do his job.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, his job, he's like, 2 of his staff were killed. He needs to fix it.
Right.
He tries very hard to fix it. So he's almost like, he's got that kind of naivety. I think Goth doesn't have that naivety, but he's got enough self-awareness to say, okay, actually, this is not it. As I'm saying, he believes that kind of surface level propaganda, but then he's not the kind of person who would have the portrait of Palpatine in his bedroom, kind of
right,
really into it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, and you did plant that seed early on where he's reflecting on Order 66, and he recognizes that probably was not the right, he doesn't agree with that, but he agrees with the overall mission. So he's willing to kind of brush that under the rug for now.
And that's actually, that's a good moment, because, he's like, okay, Order 66 shouldn't have gone like that. And he helps clear out the Jedi Temple. So he's the one that volunteers to go in to kind of get the younglings bodies out. And he thinks that it's obviously terrible that children were killed as part of Order 66. But then on the other side, he's like, why were the Jedi recruiting children?
Yeah.
He's kind of got that from both sides, where it's, he clearly doesn't like the old order, but he's not so deep into the new order that he's irredeemable, which is again, the main character who's kind of carrying the book. He can't just be a bad guy, because there needs to be something that we can see of ourselves in him and imagine what we might do in that kind of situation, which is tricky because like the Empire is kind of the evil empire. Although it's funny, there's that, I've always puzzled me in the crawl of Revenge of the Sith. Is that where it says there were heroes on both sides or something?
Yeah.
Of this, yeah. And it's like, yeah, but one side of bad guys and one side of good.
Right.
It's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
all from a
heroes
certain point of
doing
view,
what?
though, of
Exactly.
course.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some things are worse than others, though, to be fair.
Sure.
Absolutely agree. Yes.
How about we move to the shaman, Lauren? With I know we had a question in here about how they perceive the Force.
Yeah. So, okay, about the shaman. So, the first time I read the scene with the resurrectionist ritual, I kind of interpreted it as like a dark side scene. Even though he's not Sith, I kind of took it as dark side. But then when I read it again, I was kind of like, well, maybe this is actually more neutral. So I kind of was back and forth about what is the shaman's alignment in the Force. So did he see a binary, or was he kind of just more neutral and kind of pulls from both sides as needed?
I would say he's neutral. The thing with the shaman was to show, and we see a little bit in other bits of Star Wars, that the Force is not necessarily what the Jedi and Sith say it is. It's actually bigger than that.
Yeah.
Because if such a thing existed and encompassed all living things and surrounded and penetrated and all this stuff, it's a universal power / plane of existence, however you want to call it. But that means it would be actually pretty much bigger than what both the Jedi and Sith say.
Yeah,
And
it's
the
more
thing about it-
ubiquitous than we think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the Jedi and the Sith almost, we think of one as good, one as evil. They both kind of claim ownership in a way over the Force,
Mm-hmm.
which really is not what it would be. So the shaman, it's clearly a more primitive form of Force interaction, and it's their own tradition that goes back, I think it's mentioned, generations.
Mhm.
It's developed separately from the Jedi and the Sith, and has kind of done its own thing. So there's sinister, talk about like you thought maybe it was like a dark side ritual sort of thing. There's definitely kind of sinister overtones to what they
Yeah.
see on the planet, which was sort of going into that, folk horror
Mhm.
type tropes. It's a bit like the straw effigy that's burned, and this kind of ritual that's kind of handed down and down and down and down generations. And it's local. It's like local people on a planet that's not really connected with much else. So I can absolutely see. Yeah, it's like it's neutral, slanting towards what we would think is the dark side. But then if we have to say that, it's like, what do we think the dark side is? Is it what the Jedi tell us? Is it what the Sith tell us?
Mhm.
It just shows, I think, that the Force is complicated.
Yeah, I think we tend to lean to the dark side because it starts talking about resurrection and the eternal life, and those are things that are appealing to the Sith Lords. But it really comes down. We've always said it. It always comes down to intent. What do you plan to do with it, right? If it's for good purposes, then maybe it's okay. I still think the shaman is probably more neutral, but I think that's why the Jedi have always shied away from going down that path, because it really can open you up to the dark side, or the potential of eternal life is too tempting and really can send you kind of down a dark way. So, yeah.
Because I think, that's the difference for me. like the Jedi are all about kind of letting go, like let go of everything, connections, emotions, family, which is why in life itself, see, that's why they can, a Jedi can become a Force ghost. Whereas the Sith are all about not letting go,
Right.
which means power, and it means eternal life and ownership over the Force. So yeah, being a resurrectionist is like not letting go, which for us is like darkish.
Yeah.
But like you said, what is actually the cycle of that tradition, and like is it a cycle of resurrection because that's a good thing?
Yeah.
Sort of seeking improvement, etc.
And the shaman doesn't ever get a chance to explain to us, really.
No.
So,
But also, like, how much of what, like, it's the ritual is just a ritual, and like they're not even resurrecting anybody. It's just a straw effigy. Just like how much of that is real and how much is just a tradition that has evolved.
Ceremonial versus
Yeah, it's like they're just repeating the same things for generations because that's what they do. Yeah.
So one of the highlights for the book for both of us was the scene where Vader was helping Appo, and you're going to see Lauren. She'll sit up in her seat now because
I'm going to put my finger like this. Yeah,
she's where she put her finger up. And there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of debate, especially in this book. There are a couple different moments where you could argue that Anakin Skywalker resurfaced and pushed the figure of Vader behind to come out and be who he was at one point. Was that, I guess, I mean, I know it's intentional, but in your opinion, can you, again, have you left that open, or I guess definitively, do you feel like that was Anakin Skywalker surfacing and coming to the front and being helpful in that moment, or later on when, he had multiple opportunities to kill Enoosha, or is that her name? Forgot, I just dropped a name.
Enoosha,
yeah. Goth standing up to him and saying the things that, my eyes were wide open thinking, oh my God, he's going to die. There's no way Vader's going to allow him to talk to him this way. But there were moments in there where it felt like he had these, what Lauren calls these moments of light that were surfacing in the book. I guess, what's your opinion, or is there a definitive answer there as to whether or not that was Anakin Skywalker coming forward?
I think it probably is Anakin Skywalker. Part of Vader's transformation in the book. So whenever if story is based on characters have to change in order to tell a story, which is difficult for IP work because the characters can't change. But I think Vader does go on a journey in the book because part of the whole thing is sort of symbolized actually by the scene where he like lightsabers the vision of Padme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like he needs to get rid of the past to become what he's supposed to become. Now, obviously, he comes back to Padme later, and it's the whole thing of like, oh, but he's already tried to resurrect Padme. It's like, yeah, but this is the first time he's done it. Like, this is the start. Vader Immortal and the comic are later.
Right.
This is how the timeline works. This is the start of it. But for this moment in time, especially when he's working out maybe the Emperor is not being entirely forthcoming, so he's kind of lost or losing the blind faith in the Emperor that he has at the end of Revenge of the Sith, where he's like, he's all in, he's now just a tool of the Emperor, do the thing. So if he loses that blind faith in the Emperor, then perhaps what's left of Anakin can start to come out again, because he's sort of going through his own, even if he can't see it or hear it in his mind, he's going through his own journey. So yeah, Appo is someone who served him before. So Appo doesn't know that, but Vader, like Anakin, Anakin is a pilot and a warrior and highly skilled officer. So he's going to repair Appo's leg if he can, because Appo is, I guess you could, on one side you could say for Vader, Appo has a use, in which case he's not going to throw him away, he's going to fix him.
Sure.
But on the other hand, it's like, yeah, there's part of Anakin coming through. Because again, like if Vader was just gonna, if someone has an argument with Vader and Vader kills them, well, it's funny. It's kind of funny in, for example, Empire Strikes Back, where he goes through how many captains who either don't do their job or argue with him, and he kind of kills them. He's like, "You're in charge, Admiral."
Mm-hmm.
But that's a very different Vader to the Vader that we have this, which is 20 years earlier.
Sure. Yeah.
Or more. You know, in Empire Strikes Back, Vader is very, very angry, which is why I love
Yep.
Empire Strikes Back. He's so angry, which brings his whole character to a different level, where I find in Empire Strikes Back, he's like very quiet and kind of cool.
Yeah.
Which is even in a way more scary. So 20 years earlier, he's different. He's Anakin, you know, Vader, the idea of Vader killing Anakin is not something that happened instantly. And if we're talking about a moment which is like a couple of weeks after Revenge of the Sith, he's still Anakin. You know, you forget, he's like a 20-something-year-old man inside the armor, which is incredible. You know,
and it's so recent at this point in the story too. Yeah.
So Goth was going to argue with Vader, and Appo was going to try and help Vader, and Vader was going to try and help them. You know, Vader even lets them go at the end.
Sure.
Because it's like, well, he's not angry at them. That kind of primal rage that you get in Empire Strikes Back comes later.
Right.
Because Vader has a lot. Vader is not like a one mono character for 25 years. You know, like any person, he's a person. He develops. So this is a Vader that is not like, I'm just going to kill everybody that annoys me.
And that's very much what we get by the time of Empire. I mean, that's why he utters that line in Jedi where he says that name no longer means anything to me. I mean, he's buried Anakin at that point.
Yeah.
It's only through Luke that he's able to come back to him.
Yeah. And we say, and it's like, I think one of the big foundations of Master of Evil was actually the Kenobi TV show.
Yeah.
Because
that makes me so happy.
It's like, okay, look, it's actually my favorite of the Disney TV shows.
Me too. Yeah.
It's like, what is not to love about it? But for the first time, I always had this kind of disconnect between Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader. I could never really see them as the same person. For some reason, never kind of worked. Except in Kenobi, it's the first time we see in live action. We see it in the animated series a few times, but the whole cliche of his mask is damaged and you can see his eye behind the mask, like that's Anakin. And that's the first time we saw that in live action. And the way they kind of blended Hayden Christensen and James Earl Jones's voices together.
Yep. And the lighting. By the way, don't forget the lighting, right? When he speaks, that blue light comes up and then it dissipates afterwards too. So good. It's beautiful.
So for me, that was like, okay, actually it's Anakin Skywalker in the suit. That was the first time for me. And I knew I needed to do that in the book because Vader is, for all the stereotypes of Vader, he's a complicated character. Like he's one of the most complicated characters in Star Wars, to the point where it's so easy to just characterize him as, he kills people he argues with. He gets his lightsaber and he mows down often Imperials, especially in some of the comics. It's like, he's going to just kill everybody, which is like one facet of his personality, but like it's not the character as a whole. So I was glad I was able to like put in. I like the Appo, but Appo. I mean, I like the kind of Easter egg thing of being able to resurrect characters that you think are kind of dead or forgotten. It's like, we see in Revenge of the Sith, he gets his leg done by the youngling.
Yeah.
But like, he survived. A surprise. He's back.
Right. Yeah.
With a rubber leg. Yeah.
There is one aspect, and this is we don't need to go down this path, but one of my favorite, he is my favorite all-time Marvel characters, is the Hulk, and that duality between Bruce Banner and the Hulk, and how they kind of come and they're constantly in fighting. They're one and the same, like they are the exact same person, but they come out at different times depending on who needs the other more in that moment. And so I love that this is starting to become more and more of a thing with Vader and Anakin. And with the Ahsoka series, we saw bits and pieces of it there. I loved it there. So hopefully we get more of that going forward. But kudos to you for bringing that bit into the novel, especially on the heels of the Kenobi series.
Throughout all of it, is there
Yeah.
ever a time that you feel like, because you were mentioning kind of different points in the timeline where we have so much Anakin and so much Vader and they're kind of butting heads. Do you feel like there's ever just Vader, or is Anakin always there?
No, there probably is just Vader, because he kind of will go through. I mean, we don't know, because we haven't seen every moment of his life, especially that Revenge of the Sith to A New Hope era. There will be times when he's more one than the other. I think the idea is that the end of Master of Evil, he's Vader, because he wants to, he wants the secret of life after death that the Emperor has promised him. He wants to get Padme back. The Emperor's not telling him the secrets that were promised, so therefore he goes on his own to do this thing. But he discovers that actually it's more complicated and more difficult, and the Emperor's not fully truthful. But he knows he's not going to get anywhere doing that thing. So kind of metaphorically, he has to kill the past to progress. And for the moment, that means getting rid of Padme, getting rid of Anakin, becoming Vader. So like, this is the first time, and again, it's because it's so close to Revenge of the Sith, it really is the first time, like, he tries to go for Padme, because like, this is the secret of the dark side that I was promised. Where's Padme? And the Emperor's not telling him. I think by the end of the book, he's annoyed at the Emperor, like the whole throwing the stone from the temple. Here's a temple. But he's like, okay, that chapter's finished. I am Vader, and I'm dedicating myself. And again, because the story continues in the comics, where like we get the Inquisitors and various very Vader things, much more Vader, less Anakin. But then later on, as it happens in the comic, he's back to actually, Padme is the reason for my existence, so I need to get her back. So he kind of tries again and again later on. And this is, it's seeded in Master of Evil, because the Vergence on Mustafar is where he builds Vader's castle. Vader's castle is a whole story arc in the Charles Soule comic, because the whole point of that is to create a portal to get to the other side to get Padme back. So he's kind of, at that point, he's kind of gone back to what he was trying to do before. But like, we're talking about a 20-year character arc, and because he's complicated and our person, he's going to change. So to answer your question, there are points where he's definitely 100% Vader. Especially, I guess, the original trilogy, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. And then, Luke starts to bring that out. And again, that's the ultimate sort of full circle, as he comes back as Anakin, like right at the end.
Yeah.
Thanks to Luke.
What about so another interesting aspect about Vader, when we talked about this quite a bit, again, after the show, it was done as well, but you toy with the idea that Vader may have been thinking about an apprentice, or at least taking on somebody as an apprentice, and specifically Enoosha, right? I've always said that the Sith it's like chumming the water with blood. They can feel the anger. Like you see Palpatine in both in episode 1 and in Return of the Jedi, where he says, I can feel your anger. He's almost seething, and he's almost like lusting over the anger. So do you think in that moment, was that Vader thinking long-term, hey, I really don't like the Emperor. He's not on the up and up. He's done some really horrible things to me now. He's manipulated me, and I need a way to get him out, and so I can bring this young apprentice in? Or do you think he was just kind of caught up in that Sithy moment of, I can feel your anger, and wanting to, take advantage of or manipulate her the way Emperor had done him?
Yeah, I think it's probably being caught up in the moment and almost kind of clutching at straws, because he's, 22 years old. And he's just become Darth Vader. And I definitely think when he becomes Vader, and especially in Revenge of the Sith, when we see the yellow Sith eyes.
Yeah.
So when kind of the Emperor anoints him as, or Palpatine anoints him as Darth Vader, there's definitely a change, which gives him a deeper connection to the dark side. But he's inexperienced, and this is the first time that he's feeling these things or seeing these things or sensing these things. So it's definitely, he's caught up in the moment there. And I don't seriously think he was going to go, you're now my apprentice, and we're going to do the whole proper apprentice thing, because like he doesn't really know what that means either yet. It's like it's 2 weeks since he's been Darth Vader. That, you know, the whole law of the Sith has not yet been bestowed upon him. So things like the rule of two and master and apprentice and all that kind of stuff. He's got the instincts for that because he's got a connection to the dark side. But yeah, he's caught up in the moment. Because like, yeah, if he can suddenly sense that those things about Enoosha, and if he's got a connection to the dark side, he instinctively knows that this is powerful. And for the Sith, powerful is useful.
Right.
And especially, even though he's kind of young and inexperienced with this kind of stuff, she's even younger and even more inexperienced. So there's a power dynamic there. It's like, yeah, he's in charge and she's not. So he can sense that he could manipulate her like any Sith master manipulates the apprentice, like the Emperor's doing to him. Because I think by that point in the book, he's realizing that the Emperor is not just being kind of cagey, he's like being deliberately obtuse about things that he promised Vader.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a kind of a mix of things. Like you say, it's like a churn of feelings and emotions and what he can sense. And I like, yeah, the kind of blood in the water thing is really good.
I think so. Lauren brought up a good point too. This is not in the notes, by the way, but she brought up the idea that he had just kind of had that vision of Ahsoka, right? And he had a Padawan at one point. So, and when she brought that up, I was like, okay, yeah, it makes sense. And then I started thinking about it more, and I've not told you this, Lauren, but then I thought, okay, well, maybe what if, and this is me projecting fanboy stuff, but what if it was Anakin that was surfacing and going, hey, I could use a Padawan, right? And so you take it as though it's going to be an evil thing. Like he's going to, he senses that she's force sensitive. There's a lot of potential there. It's raw, untapped, untamed. But maybe it's Anakin reaching out and saying, hey, I want to, get the band back together, if you will, and maybe bring her in and, they kind of churn and do their own thing. That's not necessarily evil, not necessarily good. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting idea, and I think you don't know which way it would have gone, and I think because it's really the moment. Yeah, they're caught up in the moment.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, how that would have gone in another direction is kind of interesting. I like the idea of like a secret apprentice.
Yeah.
So but then would the Emperor know? Would the Emperor be able to sense? Because the Emperor can sense, like he's so connected to the Sith that Vader can't. Can Vader hide stuff from him? I guess he can a little bit. Yeah.
I mean, the fact that the Emperor needed Goth to try to dig up makes me think that there are limitations.
And this is the interesting thing, both with Shadow of the Sith and Master of Evil. It's like if in Shadow of the Sith, if Luke Skywalker is effectively the most powerful person in the galaxy at that moment, how do you tell a story? Because like he could do anything. He becomes a superhero.
It's the Superman complex or the Superman scenario.
And like if Vader is like all powerful in the Force, or even actually, it was Luke Skywalker. Yeah, Shadow of the Sith was really good training on how to write a Star Wars book. Because there's so many points where it's like, well, Luke Skywalker could just flick his wrist and something would happen. So there was Shadow, the kind of concept I had was that Luke knows he's really powerful, but to borrow from Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. So everything that he did, and this defined his character in the book, because I didn't know how to approach Luke Skywalker because he's not, is often not the most interesting person in the room, when there's other Star Wars things happening. But it was this kind of thing where he's so careful to judge what he's doing at every moment because he knows he's really powerful. And he has to be aware of the consequences of that because he's seen what happened with Vader and how things can go in a very different direction if he loses control. So that kind of held him together. And then similar thing with Vader. It's like, well, Vader is really powerful with the Force, so he can kind of do almost anything. But he's different in that he's got the Emperor, who's even more powerful and controlling. But again, the Emperor's not a kind of godlike figure. He's doing paperwork. He's an emperor. He's doing paperwork. He's going on strange missions. He's like, okay, Vader's gone somewhere. I need someone to find him. He can't just look into his Lord of the Rings style crystal ball thing and go, oh yeah, Vader's on wherever.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, it's just like, well, what's the point of telling any kind of story? It's like, if people can do, So so assigning Goth via the ISB to look at Vader is an insight into just the kind of the mechanisms of imperial bureaucracy. Like, we know that Palpatine is a Sith Lord and like probably the most powerful one that there ever has been. But like nobody else knows that. He's just he's an emperor who was injured in the attack with Mace Windu. So he's this kind of frail old man doing his best to rule an empire, which means doing lots of paperwork and disappearing on strange missions because he's doing important things.
Yeah.
Which is what Goth thinks as well.
Right.
Because like at one point Goth is back and he's trying to report to the Emperor and the Emperor's not around. He's like, because you have to have those kind of imperial mechanisms, which is what I love about Andor as well. Like at Andor, I could watch, this is going to sound really weird, I could watch a whole series of like the ISB meetings, when they just sit at the table. Just like they're just doing their job, and they're doing like it's an evil job of oppression and surveillance and propaganda, but like they're so good at it.
Yeah, and if you're a U.S. citizen, we see it all every day in our news, so it's
that's the
kind of an
thing.
insight.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. I mean, those meetings are captivating, and that's coming from somebody who, 15, 20 years ago, I said, I'm not really into the politics of Star Wars. And it's really grown on me, especially with Andor now. It's fascinating to kind of see all that, the mechanisms and just the manipulation and the mind games that are played and all that. It's a great aspect of Star Wars that I've really come truly appreciate.
Yeah, sure.
So one question on the, going back to that kind of the relationship between Palpatine and Anakin, I love when books make me rethink things or give me a different dimension to how I've traditionally thought about things. And this book does that. In the moment that I'm talking about is earlier on in the book when Palpatine and Vader are kind of talking about their relationship. Palpatine tells Vader, "You have no agency without me. Remember that well. The apprentice is nothing without the master." And later on, when he encounters the vision or the Vergence in the form of Anakin, he tells him that the master's strength and power comes from the anger and fear of the apprentice. It is the apprentice that makes the master, not the master of apprentice. And that diametrical view of who's really in power and who's empowering the other is pretty unique. I think it certainly changed my view of the rule of two in some ways. I guess was that intentional? And maybe talk more about what got you or why you wanted to kind of tease that out a little bit.
Yeah, definitely intentional. It goes back to the whole principle of things are probably more complicated than we think, or that we have been presented with. And I love things like the rule of two. Because if you've got the rule of two, but you've got thousands of Jedi, and this whole thing of balance in the Force, which I find fascinating, where balance doesn't mean balance of good and evil. It means a balance in one direction or the other. So the great
which
prophecy,
was Lucas's. So I mean, catch up, but that was Lucas's interpretation as well.
That's right. The whole prophecy of Anakin bringing balance to the Force he does. The prophecy is fulfilled.
Correct.
He brings balance to the Force by allowing the Sith to take over. The Force is balanced because it's now all dark. Like that's George Lucas's interpretation of the Force. I think it works really well. So the rule of two thing, I think, I liked the idea that if the Sith are all about not being able to let go, and they're all about holding on and craving power, but there's two of them, there's like a kind of almost like a parasitic relationship between one and the other, because it's most obvious, I guess, with Palpatine and Vader, like because there's such an imbalance
Yeah.
in the power dynamic. There has to be a reason for it, because like if the Emperor is super powerful, okay, if we think the Emperor is the most powerful Sith there ever was, because for whatever reason, he's all the Sith, he's the accumulation of all the power, however you want to interpret the canon or the stories, why then has he got an apprentice in the first place? Because he could just do everything himself.
Sure.
And it's like, why would he train the apprentice, knowing that historically, I think, that never ends well. The apprentice always kills the master. I mean, he killed his own master. So there's got to be a reason for that relationship to exist.
Yeah, he needs him for something.
Yeah, and like also like why would the master torment the apprentice? Like not just from a sadistic thrill of being mean to your underling, but like because he's trying to elicit those emotions that the Sith always go on about: hate, fear, all those negative emotions. And the thing about Vader of like is often said and comes up in stories of like the pain, physical pain and mental pain is kind of what drives his anger. So he's just kind of burning cauldron of rage all the time, which is good because for the Sith that rage is energy and that's useful.
Fuel. Yeah.
It's fuel. Yeah. So like Vader is kind of burning up the fuel. So the Emperor is drawing off that as any master would, because otherwise why is there such an imbalanced dynamic between master and apprentice? It's it's a twisted reflection of Jedi master and Padawan.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is very straightforward and good and clean and training and bringing up and understanding the Force and then becoming one with how it all kind of works.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like the opposite of the Sith, which is the whole point. But like, yeah. So I was, it's something that I've always thought, and I kind of put it in. But again, that helps Vader with his journey. Like Vader, all the stuff in the Virgins, the instances when he's in the Virgins, like it's all a reflection of his own psyche.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's fighting himself. Like everything that is there is a projection of himself. Physically, who knows where he is?
Yeah.
It's like not really a dream, but it's kind of not real either. So this is him coming to his own understanding of how the master apprentice thing works, which then informs what he does later. And again, like I think at the end, he's like, okay, I'm going full in on the master apprentice Sith thing. And Anakin is dead and Vader is alive for now. So, and again, because the Virgins was the only place where you could really get inside Vader's head, because of course it couldn't be from his point of view.
Right.
So if he fights himself.
Yeah, love that aspect of it too. Let's see. What about maybe we can just kind of I know we're a little bit over on time here, so I do apologize for that. But maybe just a couple questions here left. Lauren, how about the? I know we wanted to kind of pick his brain on writing characters and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I guess when it comes to writing, like we were talking about earlier, those really iconic characters and how you kind of have to stick with everybody's emotions about those characters. When it comes to getting deep into that, was there anything that was really fun about writing Vader that is unique for writing that type of a character?
Yeah, I think the thing that strikes me about Vader, because obviously I went through all Vader's appearances to kind of help build the version that I have in the book. So the thing that amazed me about the original trilogy is that in like 6 hours of movie, we get, I think it's like 32 minutes of Vader on screen. Like, he's not in it very much. And one of his key things, he doesn't say very much.
Yeah.
Which is a kind of a positive and a negative. So positive, it's like you can convey so much about Vader in the story by him not even being there. You know, there's a point in Master of Evil where Vader goes away and we focus on Goth more, but all Vader's absence does is serve to refocus the story on Vader.
Yeah.
Like, he's there more when he's not there. But then also, it's difficult when you have a character in a book who has to do stuff. Like, he's got to do action and he's got to say dialogue. And because he's someone who doesn't talk very much, and even his action stuff is, as I said, there's a lot in the comics almost are not the version of Vader that we see elsewhere. Because comics are very visual. So you can do a lot of actiony stuff. Whereas Vader on screen is much more kind of short, sharp action, which then makes it even more spectacular when it happens. Like, one of my favorite bits of Vader action is when he fights the Inquisitor in Kenobi TV series.
Yeah.
Like, without even taking his lightsaber out, he's like just dodging her and then pushes away with the force. Like, that is the best fight scene for me in Star Wars. It's like,
it was so nothing to him. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nothing to him, but it's like so impressive. And like,
Yeah.
he's doing the absolute minimum and yet completely defeating someone who was going all out to attack him. So trying to get that into a book can be tricky. But again, he's like, Vader is like less is more, I think.
Yeah.
With Luke Skywalker was almost like more is more, because like, he's really, as I said, he's often not the most interesting person. So he had to do more and be more involved and engaged and really central, because the more he did, the more interesting he became. So Vader was almost like it was not that. It's like, Vader is more interesting when he's not in the background, because he's still the focus of everybody's attention, but when he's being mysterious and dark and dangerous and scary.
I had a whole mental, like, choreographed fight scene when he came at the very end there, when the battle droids were coming in and he was fighting them off. In my head, like, I was going and playing with my toys all over again, right? And you don't get into a lot of the details there, and I think it works really well, because I can tell you right now, my battle would have been way more interesting than anything you would have put pen and paper to. So yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right and spot on there. I mean, we love those moments, but it goes back to the secrecy. At the same time, and Laura and I both feel the same way. Like, I don't want to know all the secrets of Vader. I don't want to know all the secrets of Yoda. I don't want to get in the heads of every single character. I love the mystique. I love the intrigue. It's what really kind of compels us to want to see more and more of these characters. And the minute we start doing that, that curtain comes down. I think it dilutes some of that potency of the characters and all the stuff that came before them. So I do enjoy all of that as well. Okay, so maybe maybe just the last question here, and this is kind of it's a little bit off topic. We're not necessarily talking about Master of Evil per se, although it kind of aligns with at least the title of this book. There's been a lot of discussion about where Disney and Star Wars storytelling could go, or Lucasfilms and Star Wars storytelling can go now that they're under Disney. And we first brought this back up on the show way back when the purchase was announced. We've talked about it. I got a lot of flack because I said, hey, at some point, Star Wars is going to get grittier and it's going to get darker. And I even said on that show, and I still stand by it. At some point, it feels like we may actually get some kind of adult rated content. I'm not saying, sexual gratuitous type stuff, but in terms of the violence that we see, I can see where it would go that. And I say that because I feel like Star Wars has gotten to a point where it's so huge and it means so many different things to different people. And there's different aspects of Star Wars that people can relate to or want to see, that it's just kind of grown beyond what, I guess Lucas's original vision, which would have been for, 12-year-old boys or 10-year-old boys or whatever it was he said back then. I guess what's your take on this? Do you feel like Star Wars needs to be contained? Like we should not, there are certain lines that we just should never cross. Or do you feel like, with the onset of like maybe Andor, where we got into some darker material, we could still tell those grittier stories, those darker stories, get into more, I guess, violent themes, but not necessarily going into territory that feels alien to Star Wars or, not comfortable for us as those that grew up with it?
It's kind of it's difficult because there is a line where something is something, and then it's not something.
Yeah.
To use an example, Star Trek Discovery. Discovery, I think Discovery. The one with the fungus drive. I don't know if you watch Star Trek. I don't really watch Star Trek.
No, I've not seen Discovery. I heard a lot of good things about it, and then some bad things as well. But
so the thing about that, like, I've watched Star Trek, I'm not a Star Trek fan, but to me, as the kind of like, I like science fiction. This is science fiction, so I'll watch it. There's an episode of Star Trek Discovery where someone drops the F-bomb in the show. And to me, Star Trek fans are like, oh, look at this. We're such an adult TV show because they can do that kind of language. And we've transcended Star Trek and entered this new era, and it's really amazing. And I'm like, you've actually forgotten what Star Trek's about by doing that. So to me, that crossed the line into that's actually not what it's about. Andor was as close as I would get to adult content for Star Wars. And like, I love Andor, but I don't like the first episode for a variety of reasons, because I think it's actually not Star Wars. It opens in a brothel, and then he straight up murders two people. And it's like, we sure this is Star Wars? That's where we want to go. I'm a big Doctor Who fan. I've written 2 Doctor Who audio dramas and short stories and stuff, and I've liked Doctor Who since I was kind of 7 years old.
Wow.
Just because Doctor Who is a kids program, I guess, doesn't mean I can't tell a good story that still fits the boundaries of that universe.
Yeah.
It doesn't drop the F-bomb or open in a brothel. It's a bad example, but you know what I mean. It's like, Doctor Who is Doctor Who. We don't need to have George Lucas's vision as the set in stone of what Star Wars is. And some of the best stuff in Star Wars and in other properties has happened when it has been passed on to someone else. Because, fresh imagination, fresh set of eyes can take it to somewhere where the original person just didn't think of it. Like, I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's like, it's just a new thing, which is great, because you can keep something fresh and evolving. And absolutely, things do have to evolve. Like, absolutely, Star Wars is not a static thing. We have shows like Andor. We have Young Jedi Adventures. It's like, Star Wars is almost unique in that it has such a broad range of storytelling. We have Star Wars Golden Books. My Star Wars Golden Book is as canon as Master of Evil. Now, is Master of Evil, like, it's an adult novel, but it's not like an adult novel.
Right.
It's not got any kind of R rating.
Yeah.
Right.
But people said Shadow of the Sith was really dark and scary. It was like, but it was also, for me, I was writing episode 6.5. So it was kind of a grand spectacle, to me, in my mind, grand spectacle, cinematic Star Wars story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had scary bits in it. Doctor Who has got scary bits in it. Old Doctor Who has got a lot of blood and a lot of monsters melting into green goo kind of thing, which is really quite nasty content. But it's still, in my mind, Doctor Who is for the family, And this is by having restrictions and boundaries makes the creators and the writers more imaginative in how you can fit a story within those boundaries. To use a not good example, I like, doesn't really even exist anymore. Okay, American network television. So I wrote 2 books for Elementary. So Elementary was
Oh yeah.
each episode, 42 minutes long
Mm-hmm.
because it's an hour without breaks. There were 22 episodes in the season. The season, would last 6 months with a break in the middle, and then repeat again next year, another 22 episodes. Now, I don't think American TV works like that anymore, but yeah, it had to be 42 and a half minutes long because there was going to be that many ads and it had to fit into a broadcast hour.
Yeah.
And you had to tell a story. So it's like, okay, maximum writer brain turned on. How do I do that?
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
and then with things like Stranger Things, which I love, but season 4, oh yeah, this episode's 2 hours long. It's like, because we can do anything. It's like, you shouldn't be doing anything because it's streaming and you can have a 2 hour long episode. How about you write a 42 and a half minute episode and tell the story better?
Mhm.
I mean, that doesn't just apply to Stranger Things, which I love. It applies to lots of other things.
Yeah.
The sign of the times right now.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, what does Star Wars do? How does it evolve? Can it be adult? It's like, yeah, it can, but should it? And just because if you say, oh, it's for 8 to 12-year-olds, doesn't mean it's not watchable by a 48-year-old dude, like me.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean that I can't get enjoyment out of it because it's not squarely aimed at my demographic. There's a story about Doctor Who where Tom Baker, who played the 4th Doctor, said when he was making it in the 70s, like, it operates on multiple levels. There's like a basic story that kids follow. In the same episode, there's a slightly more advanced story arc that the kind of parents and family can follow. There's jokes for kids, there's jokes for adults, but the jokes for adults are kind of just because they're clever and smarter, not that it's kind of grittier or more risque content.
Sure.
You can fit all that within the boundaries of something without saying this is adult. And like they did an adult Doctor Who series called Torchwood, and like,
Oh, really?
it's actually not very good mostly. Because same with dropping the F-bomb in Star Trek. It's like, look at us, we're so adult and edgy and after 9 p.m. and it's R18. It's like, what are you doing? Now,
Yeah.
okay, I'm sounding very negative about it. I don't mean to be.
No, you're.
And
Yeah.
some episodes of Torchwood are actually okay. But like with Star Wars, it's like, let's just tell really good stories. Andor is a type of story that could not be told in a children's book. It's not that kind of story because that's not the story he wanted to tell. Likewise, you could not convert a golden book into a 6-hour Disney TV show because there's not enough in it. Because that's not the kind of story a golden book is trying to tell. So I think so long as people remember that, and like you can tell any kind of story you like inside of Star Wars, you can aim it at different segments of the market, YA book, middle grade book, adult book, a slightly more adult TV series like Andor, slightly more mainstream TV series like Mandalorian, but it's still Star Wars.
Yeah.
And we have to trust the creators and writers that they can kind of understand that and do that. And I think like the Star Trek episode, it's like you would know when it goes off the rails, and that's when hopefully you can kind of bring it back in. I'm sorry, that's like the longest answer in the history.
It's a big question, so
It's a big question.
It's a different,
Yeah.
but it's like, that's my philosophy on Star Wars.
No, I appreciate that. And the true intent of that question was, I have a pitch for a television series that has to do with the rule of 2, and I've been trying to sell this, and you're gonna have to, we can talk afterwards, so a little bit about. No,
Oh,
I mean
gosh.
we almost had our like Andor moment. We almost had them dropping the F-bomb, and we know that was pulled and all that.
Which is exactly the right thing to do. Don't have her say that. Have her say what she said.
What if she would have said Griffin though? Do you think that would have
This isn't, well, it's a whole other thing. It's like,
right?
well,
For
but
the
like,
next
there's a
20
whole
minutes,
other-
let's talk about
call a rabbit. Like, yeah, when you start going into science fiction terms because you're trying to avoid something, it's just like it becomes
yeah,
a
you're
bit
gonna lose
silly.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
and
half
the
joking
message,
there,
but the message and the way for me, because we're talking about the fight the empire thing,
Yes.
aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That message, fight the empire, it's perfect. Fight the
Mhm.
empire,
Mm-hmm.
and the way it's delivered, like, don't. I have no objection to using other language, but like for that particular moment, I'm not offended or prudish or anything about it. But like, it's not necessary.
Yeah.
The message is fight the empire. That message can go to everybody.
And the word itself, fight. I mean, that's the perfect moment to spark the beginnings of a rebellion, right?
I mean,
You've
fight
gotta
the empire. That's the whole foundation of a rebellion.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah. Well, Adam, thank you so much for making the time to be with us and certainly talk about Master of Evil and some of the other wild tangents that we got on here. Before we get out of here, I guess what do you have coming up next? If you can share, I think we're both eagerly and awaiting that Eric Pride novel that's coming out. I know that you've been talking about.
One day, maybe.
You've given that character so much life and breath and air. It's oxygen. It's been amazing. So thank you.
But tell you, it's go and watch With No Eye. It must be on some streaming service or rented or something.
I'm gonna have to look it up. I don't know.
There's really come out in 4K a couple of years ago. It's really good.
Oh,
it's
wow.
a really good movie.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you watch that, this is the thing. I've forced it on people who like Enric Pride. I'm like, watch With No Eye, and they come back to me and go, "Oh my god!"
Right.
Now I see
get it. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So his novel about how he founded the First Order.
There you go. Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you have anything you're working on right now?
Well, I've got a book coming out in March, which is actually this month, called Crawl Space, which is a science fiction horror novel. Not Star Wars.
Not Star Wars.
My own thing. And yeah, working on something else at the moment.
Which is
my
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Can't say. Can I say? Can I not?
No.
Yeah, it's my Keelan Ayuka.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we're ready for that.
Yeah.
Well, nobody else is apparently, but yeah.
It's their rise through the Cybot Techno Union ranks or something. So.
Yeah.
But looking forward. What's that?
I've got things going.
Yeah. No, I
Which is the worst kind of answer. I'm sorry, but
no, it's and I asked it just for the laugh. I knew I wasn't going to get an answer, so thank you for appeasing me there. So, hey, where can people find you or your work before we get out of here as well?
I'm on Instagram as Adam Christopher Writer, and sometimes on Blue Sky as adamchristopher.me, which is also my website, adamchristopher.me, which has got all my stuff. But yeah, I'm trying to do my work and not be on the internet. So,
That's smart. Yeah.
yeah. It's amazing how much you can get done if you just like turn off.
Oh, it's
Blue Sky every day.
Yeah.
It's like, work. Amazing.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for being here again, Adam. You're always welcome on the show. Hope to see you at Celebration next year. And we got a chance to run into you a couple of years ago, but looking forward to seeing you there as well. And for all of our Patreon members and all of our supporters, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the things on YouTube. And thank you to all, again, our Patreon members as well. So on behalf of myself, Lauren, and Adam, we will see you guys here on the next episode.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good, fun stuff. But I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what. So that's your disclaimer.